Kate Christie is all about living your life to the fullest, in business and in pleasure. Not only as a time management expert can she find you 30 guilt-free hours a month, she can then get you designing your best life thanks to what she calls your very own life list. It's a timely episode 639 of the 13-year-old, nearly 14-year-old, award-winning Small Business Big Marketing podcast.
Well, I said, welcome to a small business marketing show where successful small business owners share their souls to take your marketing straight to the lead. Now, here's your host, Mr. Timbo Reid.
And welcome back to your weekly dose of selfish marketing. That'll make sense a little bit later on. I'm your host, Timbo Reid, and I have an insatiable curiosity for uncovering marketing ideas that help businesses just like yours to grow. I do that through a weekly in-depth conversation with a successful business founder that has walked the path before us. You, infinitely more importantly, are a motivated business owner, and you're ready, I hope, I assume, to crank out some great marketing to build that beautiful business of yours into the empire it absolutely deserves to be. As per usual, team, there's marketing GOLD dripping from the ceiling over here at Small Business Big Marketing's HQ. So let's get stuck right in. Hey, thanks so much to all of you who've reached out to me about last week's episode with Tuscan butcher Dario Cecchini. Wowee, not only is he a beautiful human being, he's created a small business empire in Tuscany, which I visited recently, that I believe provides a solid template for all other businesses to follow. If you have not listened, I encourage you to do so. Episode 638, I think it might be just a little bit of a life changer. That's certainly the intention. All right, before we meet today's special guest, let's hear from a special listener who's making money from one of my ideas. How dare they?
Hi Timbo, it's Stuart here from Ring Jewellers over in the UK. I've been a listener from day one and was lucky enough to be a guest on episode 450, where I talked about having a shop in an area with literally 30 competitors right next door to me. I just wanted to say a big thank you for all the marketing gold over the years that's helped me sell my actual gold. I've implemented many ideas from the podcast over the years, and my tip would be, especially if you're new to the podcast, don't try to cherry pick episodes that are about an industry that's the same or very close to yours. Some of the best tips I've had, they're from trades that on the face of it have nothing in common with jewellery at all. I've learned how to create adoring fans from people selling crash helmets and tights. That was 2 separate episodes, by the way. Well, that will be a mental niche. I've learned how to introduce humour into your marketing from one guy selling hot sauce and another selling chicken. Perhaps they should team up, and how to disrupt your industry from both a lawyer and an Aussie rules football player. The list is endless. So why call you now after all these years? Well, I've just joined your Patreon membership and I've had an instant result. Your post about a one-page pitch made a lot of sense to me. So I tried it and it paid off not once, but twice. And my business was featured in 2 of my industry's leading trade magazines. I can taste the Google juice already. Thanks again for all you do for us, Timbo. And by the way, folks, although I'm over here in the UK, I make bespoke jewellery for people all over the globe. So feel free to get in touch at ringjewellers.com.
Choose a stone. Choose a setting. Choose a metal. Choose a finish. Choose Ring Jewellers.
Stu, I love the Ring Jewellers jingle at the end there, mate. Nice touch. And thanks for taking the time to share what's working for you. I love hearing that stuff. Not only were you a generous guest on episode 450, Stu, you're an inspiring listener, man, who's taking action when they hear a good idea. And really, that's what it's all about. Because as I say at the end of every show, an idea remains exactly that, an idea without action. And Stu, I'm rapt you've had an instant result from one of the ideas I've shared inside of my Patreon membership. You're not the first, and hopefully you won't be the last. You see, my intention from day one was always to have members make back a bucket load more than the membership cost. And with membership starting at a tax-deductible $8.50 a month, that's not hard. Although the big ideas live within the middle tier I think it's called Silverama. Well, I don't think it is called Silverama, which is $47 a month. Still easy to make back in multiples, you would think. So anyone who isn't a member yet, and I know you are, please hit pause, roll the dice and join for a month. There's no lock-ins. You can cancel after a month if you think, Timbo, this is crap. I don't think you will. Check it out over at patreon.com/marketing podcast. Go on, do it now. I'll wait for you. Hey, speaking of new members or members generally, a warm welcome to new ones this week, including Jared Healy, Steph Manning, and Kevin Dawson. Guys, thank you so much for supporting the work I do, and I hope you're finding additional marketing inspiration inside patreon.com/marketing podcast. Kate Christie is a time management expert and author of a new book titled The Life List, in which she shares how she lost her former hubby at age 50 and how it provided the catalyst to create what she calls a life list. All the things and experiences she wants to do now whilst she's still young enough to enjoy them. Now, whilst talking about that was why I got Kate on the show in the first place, as a time management expert, she also claims she can confidently find you 30 guilt-free hours a month that you can dedicate to designing your dream life. So we go deep on that as well. Plus, we talk about the power of small business owners becoming published authors. Kate has published 5 books. We talk about what happens when you reveal your vulnerable side in business and why we should do it more often. And we explore the smarts behind being known for one thing well. Enough from me. Let's go meet Kate Christie. Kate Christie, welcome finally to the Small Business Big Marketing Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Tim.
Now, Kate, let's start by understanding you a little more. Your LinkedIn profile describes you as, and I quote, an author of 5 books, including Me Time and The Life List. You're a time management and goal-setting expert, international speaker, media commentator, corporate advisor, and coach. Where do you bring the most value to people's lives, Kate?
Ooh, I like that. I think a combination of my writing and my coaching is where I bring most value. I feel that I am able to just inject that enthusiasm, and also I trained as a lawyer, and I think it's given me that skill to take a whole heap of turgid information and cut it down to the one sentence you need. And so I think that's where I bring the most value, is I help people just decode the noise and bring it back to what is most important, most simple to them, and to say, this is what you need to be doing. This is your next step.
Simplify things. I thought lawyers made things complicated because they charge by the 6 minutes and, you know,
they do.
No use getting it down to one sentence.
I know. Well, that's why I don't do it anymore. I would never make any money.
Well, time is your thing, right?
Mm.
Kate Christie was born out of time management. Would that be a fair thing to say?
I think so, yeah. Look, I think that I came out of the womb organised, but it took until I was sort of 40 for me to realise it was sort of the superpower. I just assumed that everybody kind of operated and worked the way that I did, and it wasn't until people started saying, oh, my God, you know, I don't know how to do that, and wow. And I remember being really struck by it and thinking, yeah, but everyone knows this stuff.
Gee, that's interesting.
And it turned out that they didn't. And that took me until I was 40 to realise that it was something that I was able to commercialise, to market, to actually bring value to others, and more importantly, help them with.
What a wonderful realisation, Kate, to go, gee, here's something that I've been good at all my life. I'm now 40. I still get joy out of managing time and managing my time and other people's time, and I reckon I can commercialise it.
I know.
Did you not work another day in your life after the age of 40 when you realised that?
Pretty much. See, this is the thing, right? And people say, you know, if you follow your passion, you do what you love, you never work a day in your life. And I used to think, oh, what a load of crap, because I felt like I was working my ass off and not particularly enjoying it. And once I actually was able to leverage my passion and genuinely help other people, the switch flipped. And yes, I honestly do feel that I'm not working, I'm just helping. And the beautiful part of it is I have complete control over my life, over my schedule. I work pretty much 3 days a week. I choose who I want to work with, when I want to work. And that's all a product of just being super organised. And we can all have that. So,
you know, when you watch those shows on like A Current Affair, or what's the other one on at the same time as that? Today Tonight. And they get, it's generally a woman, and she is an awesome budgeter. and she can come into your home and she can say, you buy that pasta and not that pasta, you'll save $5. If you fill up at petrol on that day and not that day, you'll save $10.
Yeah.
And she just goes through all your dockets and your receipts, and in the end, painfully, it looks like saves you a lot of money. Are you the time equivalent of that, where you come into someone's life and go, well, listen, reading the paper over coffee in the morning, you shouldn't be doing that. That's there's an hour we pick up already. Is that your shtick?
It kind of is in a very simple way. It kind of is. I basically, what I do is I work with high performers. So I work with people who are already at the top of their game, top of their business, top of the pops in a corporate. The reason why is because they're easy to work with. I enjoy working with them. They are curious.
And they've got money.
Oh, well.
Come on, Kate.
That help. Well, they need to pay me. I'm not going to bloody do it for nothing. That's just a waste of my time.
Yes.
But I work with people who have that curiosity and want to learn. They want to change. There's nothing worse for me, and you would know this, and your listeners would know this. When you're starting out in business, there's nothing worse than taking on the work that you don't really want to do, but you need to take it on because you need to make money, and working with people who just aren't going to do what you've advised them to do. It's horrible. And we all have had those clients. And so a long time ago, I realized two very important things about my business. The first was that I only wanted to work with people who were actually going to do the work. And oftentimes they're people who are already at the top of the game, and they want to go after the cream at the top. The second thing I worked out after really sort of kicking it around for a while was that I wanted a lifestyle business, not a scalable business. I wanted a business that enabled me to live the life that I want to live, not a business that was going to take over the world and then I had to scale and invest every hour that got every cent is sent to me, and create this incredible behemoth. And that's okay. If you're into a scalable business, more power to you. But they were the two decisions I made. I wanted to work with people who were going to do the work, and I wanted a business that enabled me to live my life, not a business that became my life.
First of all, that's very refreshing, because I can't remember who it was with and whether it was on air or off air, but I had a discussion with someone recently about how much is enough, because we hear in the media and, in discussions even with fellow small business owners, grow, got to grow. Went backwards last month, got to double this month. Shareholders are screaming, whatever it may be. And it's like, it doesn't have to be like that. And for us small business owners, the idea of a lifestyle business is awesome. How did you, at that point, know that A, that's a person who's going to be great to work with, and B, what did a lifestyle business look like for you? Was it a maximum amount of days per week that you worked, or an amount of money you needed to earn?
Great
what
question.
was it?
Yeah. So in terms of the first question, in terms of how I work out if I want to work with someone, I go through a sort of a chemistry call, if you like, or a discovery call, where people reach out and they say, I want to work with you. And I'll say, that sounds fantastic. Let's have a call so that we can work out whether we have the right chemistry and the right fit, whether I feel that I can work with you and help you, and whether you feel that I've got the right fit for you. And it's a great way of doing it, because it helps me work out whether this is someone I will genuinely enjoy working with. There's a lot you can learn in that sort of 30 minutes about somebody. It also enables them to work out whether they want to work with me. I make it really clear, look, I'm direct, I'm blunt, I'm not going to sugarcoat stuff. I won't be nasty. I'm going to be kind, and I'll deliver my recommendations in a kind way. But if I think you're doing stupid shit, I'm going to tell you you're doing stupid shit, and that's my style. And so I make that really clear, and some people might then choose not to work with me, but it's enough time for me to choose if I want to work with them.
Can I just interrupt and add to that, because basically that's a marketing call. I love the way you call it a chemistry call. I've heard discovery call before, but chemistry call is great. And so often people think marketing, because marketing is everything. Everything is marketing. What you're doing on that call is marketing yourself and essentially asking the other person to market themselves to you. Sometimes, too often, people think marketing is all about getting more customers. It doesn't at what cost? Whereas sometimes marketing is fantastic at polarizing people and attracting the right type of people.
It's about getting the right customers.
That's right.
because that makes my job so much joyful. It makes their experience with me so much better, because you end up with a whole heap of raving customers who are 150% happy with what you've done because they've sold into your style right from the get-go. And I think it's about honesty and authenticity. And if I feel that I'm not going to be able to help the person, I never take someone on if I feel I just can't help them. Or if I feel that, to be honest, I feel that their style is going to kind of annoy me, or I'm not going to just say yes for the sake of winning a client. And that goes then into that lifestyle type business in terms of making that decision that I kind of want to choose and pick and choose who I work with. And some people, I've talked a lot about this with other small business owners, and it kind of seems to be really two sort of very firm schools. You know, one where they say to me, yep, totally agree, and that's what I do. And then the other is, no, absolutely not. Money is money, and I will take any client because I don't particularly care. I will get them great results, but, for me, it's the bottom line. And both schools of thought are completely fine. I think for your listeners, just work out which one is right for you.
And where you are at in your own life. I mean, for some business owners listening, they may just be starting out, and they will take anyone. Others,
as did I when I started out. You had to do it that way. But
and then you and I have got a bit of grey in the hair. I hope you don't mind me commenting on yours. I do as well.
Oh, no, I love my grey.
That gives us permission to choose these days, Well,
it does. And I think the other thing I see, and you'd see it all the time, Tim, with small businesses, is people bail out too quickly. And there's this whole, if you're going to fail fast, and I get all of that. But I think that people give up on their small business really quickly sometimes. And I think that if you really work hard and you hustle and you work your ass off and you do take all the customers because you want to grow the business, you will have success. Honestly, everyone who I've seen in terms of my peers or my cohort, it's the ones who have just head down, bum up, hustled and hustled and hustled and worked hard. They've all created successful businesses. Now, success depends on your definition. It doesn't have to be a $100 million business. And I guess that then comes to your other question as to how did I decide what I wanted to do. Basically, I sat down and worked out how much money I needed to earn to live the lifestyle that I wanted to live with me and my 3 children. And
work backwards.
I worked backwards. So I needed this amount of money in order to live in the home and to have a holiday each year and to make sure that we could have takeaway maybe twice a week and go out twice a month. And if someone wanted a nice new pair of shoes, I wasn't robbing Peter to pay Paul. I worked out my budget, exactly how much do I need to live. Then I added kind of 20% sort of luxury tax.
Love it.
And then I worked out how many days I needed to work a month in order to achieve that. And I think in business, data is king. Data is king. Never, ever make a decision about any aspect of your business until you got the data. So I basically made a database decision. And what it did, though, it was very freeing because all of a sudden I knew, well, I actually only have to work X days a month and I'm going to be able to maintain that baseline lifestyle I want for me and my kids. And then every day over that you get is a bonus, and all of a sudden you're getting a lot of days over that baseline. And I then offset that against last month or the next month. So,
nice.
I have a sense of I need to earn X amount of money per month. But then I annualize it. So if I have a bad month, well, I'm going to offset that against June because June's always great. I'm a bit loosey-goosey about it,
Love
but
it.
It works.
Tell me, we are here to talk about your new book, The Life List. But before we do that, I would be doing my listeners an injustice by not having you share how you find busy women, I'm assuming this applies to busy men as well, you can tell me otherwise, find 30 guilt-free lost hours per month and design their perfect life. This sounds incredibly compelling, Kate. I need your top 3. There is no time to keep your powder dry here. How do we find 30 guilt-free lost hours per month?
Okay, so first thing is, yes, I do work with men and women. So if you're a guy, don't turn the radio off. I'm still here to help. I also work with, high-performing teams. So it's not just individuals that I work with.
That is interesting
a lot of my work,
because your personal brand, and I holding up your book here and looking at it does come across as you have a preference to working with high-performing women.
Yeah, and I do.
There you go. Well, stop arguing.
Yeah, I like women. Women,
so do I.
We're nice. We're great. And,
yes.
and women are often more open to learning. And at the fear of alienating 50% of your audience, blokes just don't often want to learn.
Yeah.
But if you're a learning kind of chap, then, knock on the door. But I do have a preference working for women.
Answer the question, please, Kate.
Oh, bugger off, Tim. So, yes, I can help you get 30 plus hours of lost time a month. So top 3 tips, stop multitasking. Big one. We live in the age of information. We're constantly switched on. We're constantly accessible. You will have your laptop on. You've probably got your iPad next to the desk. You've got your iPhone or your smartphone within hand's reach. You can be accessed by so many people at any given time, and we feel the need to constantly be busy and accessible. So multitasking is a big one.
No more multitasking. Number 2?
No more multitasking. Number 2, deadlines. It's literally my favourite word, or second favourite word in the world. Set yourself deadlines for every single task you have to perform. Mm-hmm. The reason why is because our brain loves deadlines. There's an economic theory called Parkinson's law that says that a task will expand to fill the time made available for it. Mm-hmm. If you've got a month to write the report, it's going to take you a month. If you've got 2 days, it'll take you 2 days. If you don't have a deadline, you are not going to do the task. There's 2 different types of deadlines. There's externally imposed deadlines where your boss says, I need it by X, or your client says, I need it by X. They're easy to meet because there's consequences if we don't meet those deadlines. It's the vast majority of other deadlines where there's no external consequence. Mm-hmm. They're the hard ones to meet. So as a business owner, get yourself into the habit of giving yourself a deadline for everything, even if the client hasn't expected something. Yeah.
Number 3?
That is a biggie, and that'll change everything. Number 3 is, I'd go back to this concept of understanding what you want your business to be. Is it lifestyle? Is it scalable? And then work accordingly. So many of us went into small business because we wanted a sense of freedom. We wanted to be our own boss. We wanted to set our own rules. We wanted to perhaps have more time with our families. So we had these intentions, and then all of a sudden we're in small business and we're working every hour that God sent, and we're working harder than we ever worked ever before, and we completely lose, that sense of joy that we had, that we went into business for in the first place, and which was to have more time and more freedom and to write our own rules. Mm-hmm. So I think we just need to reassess that, because more and more the business owners I'm working with are busy. There's this epidemic of busyness.
Yes.
And COVID kind of helped a little bit, where we were sort of locked up, and so everyone started making bread, and it was kind of nice. But we're back, and we've fallen back into these habits of being in the busy club, and it's not a club I want to be in.
There's almost a guilt attached to not being busy, isn't there? Like if you're not busy, if you're found twiddling your thumbs for even an hour, you're afraid either someone or yourself is going to go, well, hang on, shouldn't you be doing something? And it's a pity, because it doesn't allow for, I personally think it doesn't allow for creative thought, because you're constantly administering or managing or doing, and not really sitting back and contemplating what could be, and I come from an advertising background where the power of ideas was paramount, and you just don't give that enough thought. Kate, I'm very, and it was a question without notice when I asked you for your top 3. So, you gave us 3. I'm surprised that just getting rid of social media isn't like right up there, because surely that would save 15 of the 30 hours we're trying to pick up each month.
You can track that. Yeah, look, I could give you top 20 to be honest. So Absolutely. Social media is a killer. Manage interruptions is another big one. As professionals, we're interrupted roughly sort of 15 times an hour. And every time we're interrupted, it takes 23 minutes for us to get back into flow on the task we were working on. So if you're being interrupted 15 times an hour and it's taking you 23 minutes to get back in flow, you're not getting any work done.
You're not getting any work done.
And this is where people say, I love it when I get into the office or into the shop or into the business early because I get so much done because there's no one there. And I love working late because I get so much done. It's because no one's interrupting you.
Yeah, that's right. I had many years ago now, I had Mark McKee on this show. He's written the book called The Go Zone and has worked with, in fact, high-performance teams all his life, in particular the Collingwood Football Club, which, if you're a Melburnian, I mean, that's not that impressive, but what he talked about the go zone. We all have 1 hour each day where it's our go zone, and you put a flag up. You literally put a flag up if you work in an office, and it's a red flag, and you do not go near that person if they've got their red flag up because they're doing their best work that's going to make a positive impact on themselves or the business. And then I think he had the slow zone, which was administration. And then it was the no-go zone, which was just go for a walk in the park, just go and do something else because you're unproductive. Yeah. So it's quite interesting. The idea of finding those 30 guilt-free hours a month, Kate, is compelling. You then say the outcome of that is it will help you design your perfect life. How close are you to designing your perfect life?
Oh, I'm here.
You are there.
I'm doing it.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
yeah.
Oh, wow.
I'm there. I'm mid-July. I'm off to Bali for 7 weeks.
Yes.
I'm going to travel and explore, but I'm sort of flirting with the whole digital nomad thing. So it's a bit of a exploration research type trip.
Wow. Have you done that? Have you lived remotely before and worked remotely?
To the extent that when I've taken holidays, I've taken my laptop. But this will be
That's
a little bit. Yeah. This will be different. No, this is the first time. And it's an experiment. And if it works, I've chosen Bali because it's sort of close enough to home so that I can scoot home if anyone needs me. The kids can come and visit if they want to. I'm 53 this year. My kids are kind of flirting with empty nesting. I'm flirting with my kids empty nesting. They haven't quite got the message yet. So there's less need for me to be with them the whole time. But Bali's close enough that they can come if they want. But in the future, I'd love to sort of spend 4 months working in Italy and then the following year, 4 months working in New York. I'm going to chase the sun. I've positioned my business now, and COVID 100% helped with this, where my clients fully are comfortable working with me online. They don't require face-to-face. And COVID was an absolute gift from that perspective. Most of my speaking engagements I could do online if the event manager is happy to. Otherwise, I can just fly in and out. So I'm there. I've worked out exactly how much I need to work, when I'm going to work, what clients I'm going to work with. So I've designed it. I'm doing it at the moment, and it's great.
How did you get the client across the line about the remote thing? Because there's certain clients just need face-to-face, or at least to know that you're in the same state or country. Was there any issues where clients were saying, look, Kate, no, not at all, because you had their trust.
No,
you've done the work.
I've got trust.
You got the runs on the board.
You've got the runs on the board. Look, and as I said, I think COVID helped in as much as we're used to it now. So most of my clients, I just tell them up front in that chemistry call, we will be working online. Everything's done by Zoom. I'll record you'll have access to recordings. Where it's a team workshop where they want me to come, I give them the option. I'll say, well, look, we can do it face-to-face, but I won't be available until September, October. If you're wanting to do it earlier, then we can do it online. And, I've got plenty of sort of a body of testimonials from clients now to sort of say Kate's amazing online or whatever. I've built up the resources and the credibility that I need to enable me to then change the business. And I fully recognise that, you'll have listeners who, have bricks and mortar shops, or they have local businesses where they work within the local community. So this type of working is not going to be available to all of your listeners, but I have chosen to work in a type of business where it's going to be available to me.
Well, I reckon that's awesome. I hope it works for you because I know a few people have gone and done it and they've never looked back. And also Bali right now, putting aside all the other reasons you're going there, have that incentive where I think you get a 2-year visa and it's tax-free.
Yeah, so they're actually they're going to have a digital nomad visa in the future. They haven't got it launched as yet. But once it does launch, which they're anticipating will be in the next 6 to 12 months, it's 5 years where you can live there and it's completely tax-free. So you have to earn your income outside of the country. You cannot be in a compete situation with any locals. But they want the nomads there because you'll be paying rent, you'll be paying for food, accommodation, travel, etc.
Yep.
But as long as you don't have a compete situation or you're not taking work off Balinese people, so I wouldn't be able to work with a Balinese company. So as long as all my earnings are outside of the country, then I don't have to pay tax in Bali and I can live there for 5 years.
Kate, you've been a time stylist for the last however long, 10, 15 years. You've now moved in your fifth book. Impressive that you've written 5 books. And this is not one-upmanship here, but I did have a lady on a few weeks ago who's written 42 books. So, I've got a way
to go.
A little bit of work to do, Kate. But the consolation is they cook books. So I reckon it feels easier to write a cookbook than
Don't tell her that. Oh, my God.
Kim, if you're listening, great interview. Thank you so much.
Love your work, Kim.
Kim
Love
McCosker.
your work.
Now, you've moved. Have you moved away from time styling, time management into something else? Your new book's called The Life List: Master Every Moment and Live an Audacious Life. It'd be pretty easy to draw a straight line between time management and the life list. But can you explain, firstly, what is a life list and why you've decided to go down this road?
Yeah, sure. So, look, a life list is the exact opposite of a bucket list. A bucket list is a list of everything I want to do before I die. And usually it's limited to adventure and travel and often sort of crazy shit that's going to hasten your death, like jumping out of a plane with, a bit of silk attached to a string or swimming with sharks looking like a very big edible seal.
What could go wrong?
Totally. A life list is the exact opposite. It's a list of everything I want to do while I'm still young enough to enjoy it. I don't want to wait until I almost die to do the good stuff. How it came about was my ex-husband, who I was married to for 22 years. We'd been separated for probably 4 years coming into COVID with 3 beautiful children together. Everyone always says their children are beautiful, don't they?
Well, mine are a bit more beautiful than yours, but I'm sure yours are beautiful.
3 little assholes together.
Yeah, that's right.
3 beautiful children.
Yeah.
And March 2020 the global pandemic was announced, and in April 2020, Dan was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, and within 11 months he died. And he was only 54. And it was every bit as brutal as you could possibly imagine. Whilst we were separated, we were still friends. I'd been married to this man for 22 years. He was the love of my life for 22 years. Could make me laugh harder than anyone I've ever met. And also, a beautiful, amazing dad. And to have that process of 11 months, of watching his decline, of watching my children grieve their dad before he was even dead was harder than you could possibly imagine. And from that, he passed away. My kids were young, not little young, but young adults. My daughter was 17. One of my sons was 19 and one had just turned 21 like a week before Dan died. And it was absolutely brutal and continues to be very hard. We've just celebrated the 2-year anniversary, and I say celebrate because we spent the day together. We went down to where his ashes are spread down the coast and reflected and cuddled and cried. And from that experience, though, it was just a very brutal awakening for me, Tim, that life is too short. And, it's trite. We all say, oh, life's too short, I'm going to eat a donut. But life is too short. And I made a really clear decision that I was going to live life really differently from that point on. I was not going to sweat the small stuff as much. I was going to, tell my kids I love them every single day, even when they're shitting me. I'm not going to bash myself up for getting takeaway 3 times a week. And I want to go climb mountains. And so in the September after he died, I'm an opinion columnist for CEO World Magazine, which is an American magazine. And I write on productivity and time management. And I sort of pumped out this article. I just sat down and it took me like 20 minutes and it came straight from my heart. And it was like, this is what's happened. We're all kind of living in this time of awful trauma with COVID. Dan has died. He was 54 and I'm making some changes. And here's the list of everything I'm going to do differently. And I don't even know if I called it a life list in the article. It was basically, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. I'm not going to vacuum anymore because I hate vacuuming, and I'm going to eat lots of lollies. I'm going to swear, and I'm going to go, climb mountains. And I shot it off to them, and I didn't think that they would print it because it's so different to what I'm contracted to them to write. And within about, with the time difference, I think it was like 5 hours later, it was on the front cover.
Oh, wow.
And it was amazing, and it went viral, and I got these beautiful emails from people all around the world saying, wow, firstly saying we're so sorry for what's happened to your children, but secondly saying I love this idea of a list of things that you're going to do, and can I steal your list, or can I make my own list, or how do I make a list? And there was just something in it, and the more I thought about it.
Hard to get a word in here, Kate, but I'm going to do my best. I've had my hand up for 5 minutes.
You have not.
I have.
It is a complete lie.
Yeah,
you were mesmerised.
Your video froze. So tell me. No. This is a beautiful conversation, and you're getting into the bucket list, the life list. Before you do that, this article that you wrote for CEO Magazine from the heart touches on. This is all about vulnerability. A number of years ago, I had a fellow, Lockie Doley, on this show. Lockie's a bit of a rock star, really. He wrote the music bed for my podcast. He's the world's leading Hammond organ player. He's an awesome guy, and everyone thought he's a total rock star making a lot of money. He wasn't, and he wrote an email to his list saying, you all think I'm a rock star. You all think I'm making lots of money. I can't pay my mortgage. And it was actually quite a long letter, and it went into great detail, and it was incredibly vulnerable. Off the back of that, things started to change for the positive. And as for you, I don't think unlike Lockie, who went off and wrote this vulnerable email, sort of trying to control the narrative, if you like, you've written this article from the heart, sent it off, not thinking it's going to be published. My question is really around vulnerability. Do you now think that vulnerability in business should be exercised more by founders?
100%. And it's a hard one, because we never want to be vulnerable. And I never had been. You present this veneer. I'm a very private person, and I'm getting used to sort of sharing the story. It's really hard to be vulnerable, but the lesson that I've learned is how incredibly powerful that can be in business. And I guess in marketing, it wasn't a strategy, but if I guess I'd been a marketing genius and had the strategy, I might have built it in as a strategy, but certainly I would encourage people to be vulnerable and share how hard it is, because the interesting thing is, I've discovered through this process is that everyone's got a backstory, right? My backstory is no worse than yours or anyone else's. We've had loss, we have trauma, we have sadness, but in sharing it then makes it easier for other people to share, and some of those people are your clients, or some of the people are just strangers, but it just breaks down some walls, I think.
100%. Oh, that's great. Yeah, it's a topic you could talk about forever, because I think it's totally underdone, and I think on the opposite end of that spectrum, there's far too many people in the spotlight in the public arena who are trying to be tough when they're not, and it just puts out it's a misleading message, to kids, to other business owners, to everyone. The idea of being vulnerable, there's a lot of beauty to it. Anyway, won't go there too long.
I agree. It's very hard to do. though.
Yeah.
It's
Well, hard to step into. Maybe it's easier.
Yeah.
I think it probably is. It's easier once you sort of start to break the back of it. You know, like I've been an anxiety sufferer all my life, and I remember years ago slowly starting to talk about it on this podcast. And I don't make a habit of it, but every now and then I raise it, and every time I raise it, it's just that little bit easier. And I always get email from people then saying, you know, thank you for bringing that out and continuing that discussion. And I suppose that's just a little example where I think, there should be more of it. Righto. So you send this article off to the CEO magazine. You're on the front page. The article goes viral. I imagine you're then approached. What happened? Were you first of all, were you approached by other media and given opportunities to talk about what you wrote about? And at the same time, did you say, oh, hang on, there's a book here, there's a business here?
So no, I wasn't approached by any other media. I had a discussion with my publisher and said, look, I think that there's a book, and I think that, to go back to one of your earlier comments, there was a very natural segue and association with productivity and time management, because the whole idea is that, you know, once you've got your time under control, once you've got those 30 plus hours back a month, well, what are you actually going to do with them? And I don't want you to pour them into another 200 emails or another, 30 hours worth of work. It's, let's take the time now to design what your life is going to look like. And so it was just a really natural segue into the life list in terms of, okay, now you've got your time back, what are we going to do with it? And so the publisher said, yep, love the idea, and away you go. And then all of a sudden time management comes back straight in, because you're trying to pump out 2,000 words a day and get all the copy off to the publisher.
You talk about selfishness versus selflessness in the book. What role does that play in designing your best life, in creating your life list? Because it can be deemed as selfish, can't it? I'm going to do all this stuff and, bugger what anyone else says.
Yeah, very much so. I wanted to put selfish in the subtitle of the book. So I wanted it to be called The Life List, and it was something going to be like the exquisite joy of becoming unapologetically selfish. And we sort of did a little bit of testing with the market on it, and because the book is probably more aimed at women, the feedback was that it was a really polarising, alienating word. And I thought, oh, that's probably a good reason to put it on the cover. But ultimately, my publisher sort of talked me out of it, because we didn't want to alienate too many readers. And I sort of did a little litmus test with just my closest girlfriends, and two of them in particular, probably my most trusted girlfriends, had a really visceral response to the word selfish, which I found quite fascinating in itself. Quite not an angry response, but I hate it if people think I'm selfish, or how dare people, I don't want to be labelled as selfish. And it was really enough for them to say I would not buy that book. I thought, okay.
But that kind of goes against one of the most popular books, if not the most popular book of the last decade, is, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. So how does that work? I mean, doesn't
it's the
word.
It's the actual word of selfish.
The word. Okay.
The word. So I think people, the word fuck is probably much more acceptable than the word selfish.
Interesting.
People do not like to be considered to be selfish. And I think, again, talking to the sort of the women audience and the age group at which the book's mainly sort of targeted, which is sort of midlife women, this concept of, we've been nurturers, we've been givers, regardless of whether we have children or not. We're givers in our career, we're givers with our family and our friends, and we are very selfless. Think of a lot of the women you might know in your own life, and they are givers.
Yep.
And so for them to suddenly be thought of as potentially taking some time to be a little less selfless and God forbid, a little bit more selfish, it's a real rub.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm big on this. We are and have been very, very selfless, and a lot of men as well, incredibly selfless. And the definition of selfless is having no self. And I think that the time has come that we need to be a little less selfless and perhaps a little bit more selfish. Not to the extent that you're hurting people or you're depriving other people, but for God's sake, start looking after yourself as well and your own needs. it can't be all about everyone else.
Obviously, people need to read the life list, Kate, but what's the starting point for creating your life list?
Yeah, so it's firstly the concept of, recognising it's not a bucket list. This is a list of things I want you to start doing from today. And so it's gonna be big adventures and goals and stuff, but there's also just going to be behavioural shifts. What's most important? Sit down and start thinking about what's on your list, what's most important to you. Ask yourself what it is you most value. And that's a very different question to what are your values. It's not about honesty and integrity and success, or what is it you most value, because that's going to help you build your list around the people you want to spend time with, the experiences you want to have. Shine that lens of health and well-being over it as well. The book is targeted at people kind of midlife and beyond. God forbid people our age, Tim, where we have this beautiful golden opportunity to design the next stage, the next chapter. We're still pretty healthy. Women in their 50s have been described by Forbes as super consumers.
Yeah, I saw you writing about that.
Which is a huge thing from a marketing perspective. We are the healthiest, wealthiest, most educated women of our age ever. Compare yourself to your mum when she was 50, your grandma when she was 50. It's poles apart. We've got money to spend. We've got a little bit more time on our hands. We're often at the peak or approaching the peak of our professionalism in terms of where we are on the corporate ladder or in our business, and we've got choice. And, exercise that choice. Do awesome stuff. Write a list of all the amazing things you want to do.
Why are brands missing that? Well, you talk about, I don't know whether they are or not. You said, I've seen somewhere where you said brands are missing a huge opportunity with the super consumer, aka women in their 50s. What's a brand that's getting it right, and why are most brands missing that? It's almost like you're invisible.
Yeah, I think there's, a lot is talked about is that, that the women of my age being invisible, and I just think it's a load of crap. I don't feel invisible. It's almost like that. It's a midlife rhetoric that the media love to buy into. Oh, you're having a midlife crisis. Bugger that. It's a midlife catalyst, mate. I'm having the time of my life. I don't feel invisible. I know my friends don't feel invisible. I think brands are lumping us in with millennial advertising. So they're putting a lot of spending into millennial advertising, thinking they're going to pick us up as an outlier. And they're not. They're getting it wrong. My body looks very different to a 20-year-old in yoga pants. I want comfort around my tummy. I don't want to... I look different so get it right. Some of the brands are getting it right. Ford had a fantastic car ad for International Women's Day where they advertised it as a man's only car. And my heckles were up, right? I'm like, oh.
Right,
and
here
then
we
I
go.
watched the ad. Bring it on. And I watched the ad and it was brilliant because it was basically, here's the man's only car, but these are the features you're not going to get, because they were all the features that had been designed by women.
Right.
So there's no windscreen wipers, there's no rear view mirror, there's no seat warmer, and there's all these things that the car didn't come with because it's just a man's car for men. And I just loved it. So that humour, tapping into that, don't kind of portray us as the homely mum who swoops in and wipes up the mess. We're not interested in that imaging.
The Meadow Lee ad from 1978, you ought to be congratulated, ain't going to cut it in 2023.
Not going to cut it, I'm afraid.
Geez.
I might throw the tub of Medley at the television if I see that one.
Yes.
But, approach us with humour, understand that we're young, we're dynamic, give us a little bit of respect, but tap into what we're talking about. Some of the beauty brands are doing this really well now. There's brands, particularly brands out of the US, that are catering for, women of our age in terms of our skin, women who want to go grey. Well, here's a whole product of great hair care for women with grey hair. A lot of influencers in the US are now tapping into this. You've got your Gwyneth Paltrow's and Annie McDowell's and others who are sort of embracing aging. So it's becoming a better discussion. You've also got a lot of brands and bigger corporates starting to kind of get involved in the menopause discussion with women, which I find fascinating. You know, that we've spent years talking about women going on parental leave, and now we're finally letting the poor dads have parental leave. And some companies are now starting to understand that they need to be catering for women in their 50s and plus in terms of menopause, because they're realising that they're losing incredible talent with these women opting out of the workforce. So some brands are getting it really, really right.
Kate, how do you plan turning the Life List into a business, or aren't you? Was it just a book you needed to get off your chest, or are you actually turning it around and becoming a Life List coach or training others to do that? You are doing that?
Yeah, so it sort of fits very nicely with my time management productivity coaching. So I've already started coaching women who are approaching me to say, I've got my time under control. I want you to help me create a life list and live it. I'm doing that individually or as groups. Also from a speaking perspective, I've got a lot of keynotes around the concept of a life list and living your best life now. So the sort of the monetization part of it will primarily be around speaking and coaching.
Do you know, as we're speaking and as I did my research for this interview, what you're very good at is you've identified in your business, in your own business life, putting aside your corporate lawyer stuff, you've identified little niches, packaged them up in a way that is very marketable and digestible. And as a result, you find yourself writing for CEO Magazine. You find yourself on Kochi's Business Builders. You find yourself on stages because you're actually pretty easy to buy. I don't know whether you know this or whether this has been intentional.
That's lovely.
But that's my observation. And as I speak to you, I'm reflecting on other people that I've interviewed over time who have niched themselves down and been known for something very specific. So for you, time management, time stylist type person, and now life list type person, it's actually very sexy. I use air quotes there because it is. It's interesting. Little bite-sized chunk that's really tasty and easy to buy. Do you know that?
I with you saying all of that, it definitely resonates. And thank you for that feedback. That's honestly the most amazing compliment. So I really appreciate it. I guess maybe I know it now. I think what it has always been. It's
also sorry to interrupt, but it's a lesson for. I share that because I want to give you that compliment, but it's also a lesson for others listening. You know. What's an analogy? Like if you're it's easier for service-based business owners than it is for necessarily product business owners. But, you know, if you're a coach just coaching, then that's a tough gig. If you're a real estate agent just selling houses, then, you know, what if you were to narrow it down and define yourself with a fun title like time stylist or whatever, you know, and chemistry core? You're very good at packaging stuff up, and others can learn from that because then they're going to be able to, people are going to be able to talk. I mean, it'd be so easy for me to talk to someone else about you because it's very clear what you do. And so many businesses just don't get that. So there's just a really nice learning there, I reckon.
Really lovely to hear, because sometimes I feel like I'm not getting it right. But I think bottom line, and I guess it kind of comes back to that vulnerability piece, is I've always created products and services off the back of what I want and need for myself. And so the Life List was an incredibly cathartic writing experience, and it's helped me, and I know it'll help other women. The time styling, I totally use myself as my guinea pig on everything that I do because it helps me, and then I know it'll help others. And I think that it's always been, I think we're best at selling products and services that we've created with passion that we know solve a problem for ourselves. And I think that's universal across any successful business.
And couldn't find an elegant enough solution elsewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice. So the Life List business is well. When did the book come out? The book's what, 6 months old now?
No, it came out on the 1st of April, I think it was.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
And the business is underway. So are you actively promoting yourself? Because no one's looking for a Life List coach. We know that, right? So that's are you simply cross promoting out of your time management coaching and saying, hey, listen,
exactly.
Great, love it. Love it.
Yeah. So it's the time, let's get the time sorted. Once we get your time sorted, now what are we going to do with it?
Yes.
And with the time management, because I do a lot of corporate group coaching, and I've always, as the sort of the final component of the workshops that I run, there's always a goal setting component. So I've always talked it, but now I'm just using different language.
Mm-hmm.
So rather than, okay, now we've got your time, let's set the goals. Now it's, we've got the time, let's write your life list. So I'm just tweaking the language. And I obviously spent the time with the book in creating frameworks and structures and processes. So they're very replicable, and I can use them in the coaching. I can use them in my workshops. I can use them in my keynotes. So it's keeping it simple and making it replicable.
Interesting to talk about self-publishing for a minute, Kate. You're not J.K. Rowling. You're not Tim Ferriss. You're not making gazillions of dollars from books, I imagine.
Correct assumption.
Thank you. And I've had a book myself, now sold out and not reprinting. But and I talk about on this show, and had authors on this show as well. We talk about it as being a glorified business card. Having a book is a glorified business card. Why? What has having? You got 5 books. What's that done for your personal brand, and how have you turned those into money-making machines beyond the recommended retail price of $29.95?
Beyond the whole Stephen King thing where you get like 2 cents a copy sold.
Yes.
So look, it very much is that business card on steroids. It's a really solid calling card with a little bit of oomph. Rather than putting the business card down, you take the book. It's my first 3 books I self-published, and they were very useful in terms of getting me a foot in the door, getting me the meeting, then getting me the speaking gigs, then selling the books at the events, then picking up coaching clients. So it's love it. You take people through a process. My last 2 books were published by a proper publishing house. The reason why I chose to do that was not because I wanted to be, Stephen King or J.K. Rowling, because you're not going to really sell that many more books. It was to get the distribution. So it was wider distribution than I would achieve if I self-published. Self-publishing allows me to leverage the book through my current community and my current contacts, and maybe 10% more. With a publishing house, they then have distribution into America, into Asia. So I did it for distribution purposes, but my business model stays the same as if I was self-publishing, and it's all around using the book to leverage it to get speaking gigs and to win clients. I have those chemistry calls, the clients that are potentially sort of thinking about it, I'll send them a copy of the books. And worst case scenario, they read the books and they recommend them to someone else. Best case scenario, they say, yeah, I want to work with you.
Yeah.
So it's just another tool. It's like a sample product.
Love it.
It's just a sample. Let me send you a sample of my shampoo, and they might buy a crate.
Yep. And it's a cheap sample product. Well, good on you, Kate. I love what you're doing. I'm very happy that you've found your perfect life.
Thank you.
I could say you I won't be rude. Good on you. Good on you for doing that.
Don't say it.
And,
don't say whatever you're going to say.
No, I won't. And anyone who wants to find out more about what Kate's doing, katechristie.com.au is a good place to start. And I just think it's awesome where you're taking it, Kate. So well done to you. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me, Tim.
There you go, team. Life lister and time stylist, Kate Christie. Hope you enjoyed it. I certainly enjoyed bringing it to you. What caught your attention? Love to know. Give me a buzz. 0480 015 150. Let me know. Let us all know. I may play it on an upcoming episode, so be sure to leave your business name for a bit of gratuitous self-promotion. That's what we're all about here. Righto, it's time for you to take action on what you've learned because, like I said at the top of this episode, ideas remain exactly that, without action. If you'd like to support the work I do for small business and want even more of me, good luck, then check out my exclusive business owner membership at patreon.com/marketing podcast, where membership does start from a tax-deductible $8.50 a month, no lock-ins. If you enjoyed today's episode, please hit the subscribe button on your favourite podcast app, where you're going to find 638 more chats with successful business founders. Big thanks to Sam Heathcote for stitching the marketing gold together, and to our in-house rock star Lockie Doley for the music bed and all he's done for this show over the years. Most importantly, a really big thanks to you for tuning in, for making the time to listen to me rabbit on. I hope there was a lot of value in there for you. May your marketing be the absolute best marketing. Bye for now.